You don't have to play the man nor the woman. Just be yourself. Chapter 1. Intro to Welcome Back Alice and Oshimi Shuuzou. What is K to me? I mean, it's not about friendship or love or dating. None of that stuff really matters. K said that he wanted to stop being a boy, but he doesn't want to be a girl either. That's how it is, and so, that's why, we want to go back. We want to go back to when we were neither boys nor girls, before those kinds of things were instilled into our minds. So that's how it is between us. Okaeri Alice, or Welcome Back Alice, is a 7-volume, 40-chapter manga written and illustrated by Oshimi Shuuzou. It was published in the Besatsu Shonen magazine from April 9th, 2020 to August 9th, 2023 for 3 years. Other works of Oshimi Shuuzou include Akuno Hana, Avant-Garde Yumeko, Boko wa Marie no Naka, Chino Wadachi, and many more. Oshimi Shuuzou was born on November 30th, 1980 in the Gunma Prefecture of Japan. Shuuzou often read modernist poems by authors such as Sakutaro Hagiwara and Mitsuhara Kaneko during his childhood. He had many favorite surrealist artists, but his favorite is Odilon Ridan. When he was very young, he very heavily identified with the protagonist from Tetsuo Adachi's Sakura no Uta, which would later influence his manga, Akuno Hana. He won the Tetsuya Chiba Award in 2001. He debuted with Superfly in Kodansha's monthly shonen magazine before moving on to his first work, which was Avant-Garde Yumeko. Chapter 2. The Fleeting Joy of Adolescence. Our story starts with Yohei/Yo for short at school standing around outside, fetching tennis balls while everyone else does their junior high extracurricular activities. A ball rolls over to him, having been knocked over by Mitani, a girl in the same grade as him. He stares at her legs while she runs off, fixated by them. He gets knocked out of his trance when the teacher announces wall training. His other friend Kei, the final member of the trio, calls out to Yo to do wall training together. They both train hitting the ball against the wall repeatedly, with Yo struggling and questioning how Kei is so good at it. Nearby, Mitani is with another girl who exclaims that Kei is cool, with Yo and Mitani glancing at each other. Kei snaps him out of his trance and asks him if they both can walk home together. Yo agrees and they get going, cutting to them walking home and doing various impressions of the teachers. Kei interrupts by asking if Yo has a crush on anyone. Yo reverses the question on Kei, embarrassed of this question that came out of the blue. Kei admits that he doesn't like anyone before asking another question. Kei asks Yo if he's ever masturbated. Yo, surprised by the question, admits that he has, and Kei questions his method of how he does it. Very embarrassed, Yo shows how he does it, and Kei laughs slightly before revealing that there's a better way to do it. The manga segues to Yo, late at night, reading some manga before his sister tells him to go to bed. He goes to bed remembering how Kei taught him to masturbate. As he does, he imagines Mitani playing tennis and taking glances at her underwear and face to help him. He keeps going, exclaiming that the act is awesome before finally orgasming. He looks at his hand and presumably goes to bed before the manga cuts to inside the school the next day. Kei and Yo greet each other, with Yo telling Kei that he masturbated and semen came out. Yo tells Kei that it was awesome, with Kei questioning who Yo thought of. Yo, flustered, deflects the question back to Kei, who says it's a secret. Yo proceeds to masturbate again, thinking of Mitani as we cut to him being unfocused and out of it at the end of the school day. Yo asks another boy where Kei went, with the boy unaware of where Kei went. Yo wanders home, dazed, and remembers he forgot his backpack and supplies back at school, and heads back. As he heads back, he peeks into an alley in the school, where he sees Mitani and Kei speaking to each other. Mitani gave Kei a love letter, and wants to know his answer to her love letter, blushing while talking with him. She asks how he feels about her, to which Kei asks her if he can quote-unquote try it out to make sure. Surprised by his response, Kei closes in and kisses Mitani as Yo watches, a look of dismay and bewilderment on Yo's face. Kei grabs her butt and lifts her skirt as Yo watches. Kei and Mitani stop kissing before Kei notices Yo watching them, surprised as he did not expect to see Yo there. Kei has a sad look on his face, staring back at Yo, before Yo runs away, horrified as to what he saw. Later that night, he masturbates to Mitani and Kei kissing before we see him walking to school the next day. Kei calls out to Yo, with Yo ignoring him and running ahead, still shaken up and confused about what he saw. The next day, the same scenario plays out from before, with him fetching balls and Mitani's ball rolling over to him. Mitani greets him and Yo is unsure of what to say. She picks up the ball as he stands over her and gets a nosebleed out of nowhere as he stands back up. Mitani exclaims a worry for Yo as Kei runs towards him, surprised and worried, wanting to take him to the infirmary. Yo shrugs him off angrily with a look of anger on his face. Later that day, once again, Kei asks Yo to walk home together, with the same result as earlier that morning. We cut to after summer vacation is over, and Yo's sitting alone in the classroom with Kei's desk empty. He is nowhere to be found. Yo looks dejected and sad as he stares at Kei's desk before the class is interrupted by the teacher. She reveals that Kei has left for another school, shocking both Mitani and Yo. Yo then narrates that he could never forget that day before the manga shows him standing outside his high school, having grown up since his middle school days. Behind him is a smiling girl, staring at his back before the manga ends. Welcome back, Alice. Chapter 3. Welcome back, Alice. The second chapter starts with Yo attending the entrance ceremony alongside the rest of the school. He stares at the side profile of Mitani, romanticizing about her and remembering the kiss between her and Kei. He narrates that it's been 3 years since Kei moved away and that he's been fantasizing and masturbating to Mitani the whole time. Because he feels guilt over masturbating Mitani and having pushed Kei away, he hasn't talked to Mitani at all over the 3 years. He remarks to himself that he has to change and that he's made a plan to confess his feelings and go out with Mitani. Otherwise, he will consider himself a failure for the rest of his life. We see later on in the day, Yo approaches Mitani and calls out to her in the school hallway. Mitani remembers him and points out that they will be in the same school and class again. She admits that all her friends are in different classes and that she's been lonely, and tells Yo that being with him makes her happy. Mitani leaves to go to the bathroom, and Yo is exhilarated to have talked to her and is happy to be alive. Snapping out of his trance, he looks up to see a blonde-haired girl staring at him, and she calls out to him. Yo remarks that this girl is very cute, with the girl saying that they are in the same class as well. Yo takes notice of the girl using the masculine word boku to refer to themselves instead of the feminine version. The girl points out how Yo has grown into a fine adult, confusing Yo as he keeps staring at her face, entranced by her beauty. The girl asks if Yo still likes Mitani, and asks if Yo's been jerking off to Mitani this entire time, taking him by surprise. Yo tries to deny it and leave, but the girl takes a hold of his arm, and they proceed to go to their classroom. The girl is calm and collected, while Yo is flustered immensely. They enter the classroom with everyone staring at them, especially Mitani, with Yo telling her that the situation isn't what it looks like. The girl pushes Yo into his seat, and the teacher comes in and welcomes the class. While the teacher speaks, Yo is worried about Mitani coming to a misunderstanding as to what she saw as the class introduces themselves. As he stares more and more at the mysterious girl, he comes to understand that she may be familiar to him. Yo introduces himself to the class, as does Mitani, and the teacher calls on the next person's name. He calls out the name Kei, and Yo is entirely shocked. Kei stands up and introduces herself to the class, as Yo and the rest of the class stare. Kei explains that they were originally from this area, the area being Tokyo, and that they moved away during middle school. Kei also points out that Mitani and Yo are their childhood friends, as Mitani stares at Kei in disbelief. Kei explains that they were once a male, but has since given that up and asked the class not to ask any bad questions. The rest of the class talks amongst themselves about Kei. The teacher explains that Kei has been given a special exception to wear a female uniform. Yo calls out Kei's name, and Kei responds, saying that she'll show him something even better than masturbation, and that she is back. Chapter 4. He is her, and she is him. I am back. The third and final chapter of this overview starts with the class crowding around Kei, remarking how cute she is and questioning if she is a boy. Yo stares at Kei while he sits in the back when Mitani approaches Yo looking confused. She questions whether or not that is Kei and questions if Yo knew that Kei was going to come back. Kei interrupts and hugs his arm, asking if they can go home together. The whole class stares, and Yo pushes Kei off him, feeling embarrassed. Kei then greets Mitani and forces Yo to go with her, Yo staring back at Mitani. They walk home together with Kei hugging his arm. Once again, Yo shrugs her off and tells her that he has a lot of things to ask her. Kei tells Yo that she came to Tokyo alone, her parents are back in Hokkaido, and that she lives all by herself. She tells him that her place has been a mess since moving in the day before, and asks Yo if he can help her tidy the place up. Yo wants to question her first before she pulls him along, her apartment not too far from where they all live and go to school. They go to the apartment and enter, and Yo sees the messy interior where Kei hasn't unpacked anything. Yo once again reaffirms with Kei if she lives all alone before helping Kei unpack. He unpacks all her clothes and hangs them up, and Kei asks if Yo wants to play video games together. Yo asks another question and asks her what happened in the 3 years since she left for Hokkaido during middle school. He also asks why she is dressed like a woman and whether or not it's always been like that. Kei asks if it is a bad thing to do what she is doing, and Yo denies it. She has quit being a boy, and Yo further prods her by asking what that means. Kei responds by saying, "For me, all the things that are said about this is what men do and it's normal for a man are dead wrong." Kei clears it up by saying dressing this way and living this way would suit him better. She then asks Yo which does he like better, the new or the old Kei. Yo looks off to the side, admitting that he doesn't know. Kei stands up and asks Yo if he thought she was pretty. Yo, very flustered, tries to get away and put away more clothes. Kei hugs his back and asks if Yo wants to do it with Mitani and prods him by asking if he's been masturbating to her. He tells her to cut it out and threatens to go home, and Kei laughs at him while apologizing. Yo is confused about himself and what he feels about her, and doesn't know what to do with the hazy feeling he feels in his body. Kei breaks the silence and tells Yo that she wanted to come back to Tokyo to attend the same school as Yo. She admits that she thought she needed to start from scratch with him, and that it would be bad for her if she didn't. They both look at each other, and Kei tells Yo that she'll help him with dating Mitani, and to leave it to him. Yo questions why Kei would want to help with Mitani, as the manga cuts to Kei and Mitani kissing back in middle school. Yo tells Kei that Mitani used to like Kei, and Kei remembers what happened back then. He then closes in on Yo, closes her eyes, and tries to kiss him as she inches forward. Yo, eyes wide open, is shocked and unable to move as they both kiss. Realizing what's happening, Yo throws her off and runs out of the apartment as Kei bids him goodbye, saying that she'll see him at school tomorrow. The manga ends with Yo blushing like crazy as he runs home. Chapter 5. Background information on the creation of this manga. This doesn't need to be said, but this manga very obviously focuses on the topics of male versus female, the topic of gender, sexual orientation, non-binary, and all the other discussions that come with such topics. As you read on into the story, Oshimi Shuuzou sprinkles in his own story of how he struggled with his identity, his struggles with masturbation, and grappling with such heavy topics while growing up. He talks about his addiction to masturbation when he was young and how often he would do it. He would talk about thinking his body was disgusting as he grew older and older as a teenager. He talks about society's obsession with sex drive and the identification of male and female and how he looked up to men who showed their sex drive to the fullest in all sorts of media. He talks about how he used to fantasize about being a girl and how he acknowledges that way of thinking is only an escape. How he was bullied and how as a child thought that boys naturally get excited over girls. As he grappled with all of these things, he describes discovering a beacon of light, and that beacon of light was the idea of femininity, or rather something beyond the binary choice of being a man or woman. What I wanted to show in this section is that Oshimi Shuuzou was still grappling with all of these issues while writing and illustrating this manga. So in a way, as he wrote and drew these characters, he was also slowly putting himself together, piece by piece, exploring how he feels and how his experience would be in the shoes of Yo, Mitani, and Kei. This manga may not be a shining beacon to those struggling with these same issues, as they may find offense to how pushy Kei is, or the depiction of Mitani in the later chapters. This manga does not set out to be the end-all be-all de facto depiction of transgenderism, non-binary, sexual identity, the concept of gender, etc. Instead, it serves as a self-exploration and journey of the author himself, as well as the characters inside the manga, and to take it as such when reading and thinking about the manga and the author. Chapter 6. Art Style. Oshimi Shuuzou's art style is very unique and iconic, standing out even amongst his peers in the seinen genres. His understanding of shadow work, how humans and faces and bodies work, and hatching and cross-hatching seem like magic. He also quite frequently ignores what is seen as correct when it comes to manga composition and shading, as he plays around with shadows on faces, his expressions on human faces, buildings, clothing, environments, etc. His manga has a sort of dreamlike aesthetic to them, with what I like to say is seemingly amateurish detailing. By that I mean his uses of scribbling, hatching, cross-hatching, and shadow work may seem messy and inconsistent to an untrained eye, but to someone with an art background it is masterful and showcases his flexibility and understanding of how to break art conventions and mold the drawings into something no author has ever done and is distinctly his own. His environmental drawings and shading do the heavy lifting and contribute mainly to this dreamlike aesthetic. Clouds will be rendered purely through shadow, with hatching filling the outlines of the clouds. Backgrounds aren't painstakingly rendered or traced over using digital software, as some artists like to do, and are simple and pleasing to the eye, as to not distract from the characters or scene. Character line work is clean and simple, and he doesn't go out of his way to hide mistakes such as shaky line work or simple backgrounds. To showcase a dark scene or night sky, he will frequently gray over the image with a marker and then hatch on top of it. He will also very frequently use a ZBrush or marker to fully black out an image, then blend hatching and cross-hatching to make it properly go together. What is conventionally considered black or white or gray, he will intentionally only add one layer of hatching on faces or buildings or clothing, preferring to build the hatching with multiple lines. To an untrained reader, his manga and artwork would appear confusing and conflicting to what an average mangaka would draw and depict, but his experimentation with detailing on shading, his depictions on environments, his characters and facial expressions, and how he chooses to prioritize these aspects of his art all contribute to this alternative, dreamlike reality, unlike any other manga or drawing. Chapter 7. Paneling. The one thing that stands out in this manga, as well as Oshimi Shuuzou's works as a whole, is the big wide panels and the composition within. Its panels are rarely cramped, and everything is allowed to breathe. He conveys so much emotion and so many story elements in just a couple of pages. Characters are front and center when talking, and he uses unconventional perspectives and angles to emphasize whatever he wants to showcase. Very often he will draw a beautifully rendered portrait or environmental shot and let it linger for panels and panels, if not pages and pages, to fully drive the point home. Reading his mangas, and this is true for Welcome Back Alice as well, is how natural everything flows. Reading the panels feels as if you are having a conversation with the medium itself. My eyes are never tired after reading, and the way he goes about paneling and composition in general encourages that feeling of just one more page. I would only attempt to read a couple of chapters, but before I know it, I've read the entire manga, or a good chunk of it. Chapter 8. Character Design. Character design can sometimes make or break a manga, especially one as character-driven as Welcome Back Alice. While not a lot can be said about Yo or Mitani, a lot can be said about how Kei is depicted both during middle school and his debut in high school. Yo and Mitani are both drawn and depicted very plainly, with Yo as your typical nerdy glasses character, and Mitani as the athletic, pretty, hair up in a ponytail type of girl. Kei, on the other hand, is drawn beautifully and stunningly in every panel that they are in. While the other two's eyes are plain and wide, Kei's eyes are more so on the slimmer side, depicting him as a cooler type of character. He has a sharp face, short black hair, and generally is more of a feminine or agender type of design. He has very few tells and is generally open with Yo in the beginning chapters, and becomes even more confident with his words and actions in his high school debut. His long blonde hair and feminine clothing accentuate his dubious typing of male or female. Every character in the story goes through character growth for better or worse, but with Kei being the titular character that drives the whole manga forward, he is the easiest to notice and understand on a surface level. Kei is always pushing Yo into precarious situations and helping him out with his troubles with both Mitani and what it means to be a man. At the same time, Yo experiences the greatest amount of character growth there is, despite Kei being front and center, simply because of his journey and the situations he endures. Overall, the character design can be hit or miss in mainly all of Oshimi Shuuzou's mangas, and Welcome Back Alice is no exception. Chapter 9. Ending Thoughts. Okaeri Alice, or Welcome Back Alice, can be a divisive manga depending on how you can tolerate the situations that happen. Some people may throw this manga aside if they try to read this manga in the hopes of coming to some sort of realization about themselves. Other people may object to the harassment of Yo by both Kei and Mitani, and may view it wholly counterintuitive to the message Oshimi wants to push. Others as well may deem it wholly unreadable and damaging to the ideas it tries to push because of the actions of Kei. As I tried to illustrate earlier, it seems this manga is perhaps more so for the artists themselves than for the audience. Oshimi Shuuzou has made it clear that during its runtime, he was still figuring out his own answer to the questions that he has imposed on himself and the characters of Welcome Back Alice. Whether or not he has come to a complete answer is unknown and doesn't need to be known. The manga stands on its own 2 feet and accomplishes what it set out to do. This is a very divisive manga that will either elicit 10 out of 10s or 0 out of 10s in people's minds. That's just how it is when dealing with such topics. I found the manga to be a masterclass in art style, dialogue, composition, paneling, and the whole 9 yards. I've read the manga repeatedly time after time again, and it grips me and pulls me in every single time. Shuuzou has a way with dialogue and his depiction of characters that sometimes seem impossible to comprehend. It also helps that I study how he approaches shading and composition every single time I read one of his works. I like to think of myself as an open-minded person when it comes to topics such as the topic of non-binary, male versus female, and the whole overall message. I'm not a big fan of gender bender mangas generally, regardless of what genre it's in, and I acknowledge that this isn't solely a gender bender or body swap manga, and that's what makes it so great. In the sea of manga that depict these topics with comedic value or only have a surface level evaluation, Welcome Back Alice, regardless of what you think, has such a deep and emotional message for everyone. It also helps to be familiar with his previous works, as I am a big fan of Aku no Hana, Avant-Garde Yumeko, etc., but not every single one of his works. Regardless of what one may think of the handling of such topics, the manga artistically goes above and beyond, both in its message and what is drawn and depicted. This is a manga I will reread over and over again and study to further myself as a person and as an artist. I hope others can look past its flaws and find their enjoyment and meaning out of it as the artist did and as I did. Not every one of his mangas I found enjoyable, but I appreciate what he does and how he does it, and I especially appreciate Welcome Back Alice. My name is Artdude Saz. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I hope everyone has an awesome day. Thank you.